Hey, welcome to Luke's Dev Lab. My name's Luke and I'm here to help you cut through the hype and find out what AI can do for you. And in this video we're going to be looking at the 9B version of Ornith and comparing it to the 9B version from Qwen as well. So for the model specifically, we're going to be looking at this 9B GGUF from deepreinforce.ai, and we're going to be going with, as usual, the 4-bit Q4KM. And the reason we're doing this is because this model is suitable for people who've got 8 gigs of RAM on their GPU. So if you're using a 8GB VRAM GPU, this is what you're going to be going for. So this test is for the people with 8 gigs. And then the comparison, we're going to be looking at this against Qwen 3.59B. Again, 4-bit, we're going to go for the Q4KM. And this is the 3.5, the previous generation from Qwen. And then on the Ornith model, this was actually trained on 3.5 as well. So here, post-trained on top of Gemma 4 and Qwen 3.5. So this should be a pretty good comparison of what Ornith brings to the table with this post-training. So we're going to be running the models through my regular benchmarking test suite and then a couple of coding challenges at the end that are suitable for the model size. So we'll start with performance, where we measure the pre-fill and the decode speed of the models. Then we'll do the memory, where we fill the context and insert pieces of data throughout and see if the model can find it. Then we'll do agency, which will put the models in a fake company sandbox where they'll have a bunch of tools available to them to complete tasks. We'll have the OpenAI HumanEval, which is 164 handcrafted Python challenges, and then our 2 coding challenges. We're going to do our expense tracker, and then we're going to do our memory match game. And then with these models, we're targeting people who've got 8 gigs of VRAM. Obviously, if you've got 16 or more, you can do a bigger context, or you can do a lesser quantization. And then 32 gigs of system memory can come in useful if you want to spill out into that. Model configs are linked in the GitHub in the video description if you want to check those out. So let's jump into our performance metric. Here we're looking at Ornith, and as you can see, this is our pre-fill. So the pre-fill is the speed at which the model will ingest tokens, such as your prompt. So we can see as it gets larger, it does slowly start to drop. As we go past 32K, the drops will become less dramatic and it will flatten out. And then if we look at our decode, which is the token generation, the speed, you're going to see the model output tokens. It's pretty much 37, 36 across the board, no matter what the decode size is. And then let's bring up the Qwen next to that. So we've got Ornith on the left, Qwen on the right. So as you can see, the numbers are pretty similar. Once we're at 8K, the difference is just a few tokens. And again, maybe 10 token difference on the prefill. And then on the decode, almost identical, just 1 or 2 tokens faster on Ornith. So pretty close on these, which is to be expected. So now we're going to be looking at our needle in the haystack test. This is where we fill up the context and we insert data at 0, 25, 50, 75 and 100% of the depth, and then we ask the model to find that data, and then we also do 3 runs at each depth as well for consistency. And as you can see here, it's done quite poorly and has done better towards the end. And it is known that models usually do better at the start and the end of the context and then get lost in the middle. But even in the beginning of the context, it's only found it 1 out of 3 times, and then at 25%, 1 out of 3 times. In the middle, it never found it, and then at 75%, 1 out of 3 times, and then right at the end, 3 out of 3 times. And you can see when it does not find it, it just gets lost in the context of the document. And this is a Linux kernel documentation, so that's why it's always mentioning things related to that. And then you can see sometimes it does find it, but it never really gives a clean output. Like a lot of larger models, the output will be very clean. It will just say something like the secret passkey is, and then it'll give it, and then that's it, done. Something like this, but the passkey would be there. So let's see how Qwen did. So we've now got Qwen on the right, and as you can see, it's just as bad, because I thought maybe this is something with Ornith, but it's not. It's an equally poor result with Qwen on this one. And this is with 256K context. So I figured, okay, maybe this is because the context is very large. So I decided to run the tests with 128K. And as you can see, at 128K, they performed maybe slightly better, but still quite poorly. So then I decided, okay, let's do 64K. And again, it's not great, but you can see here the results are almost identical. So the summary is these models are not very good at finding data in large context. So it's a little bit concerning to see the results like this, if I'm being honest. So next is the agency benchmark. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this is where we put the model into a fake company sandbox where it has a variety of tools to use, and then we run it through some tests and see how it is at figuring out what tools it should be using, which ones are decoys, which tools can be chained together to get to end results. The model has a tool for checking how to convert currencies, things like this. These are all set by the company, so it's supposed to use the tools to do things like this. And there is an internal clock as well, so it's not relating to the real world time. If you'd like to read more information, this overview is linked in the GitHub down below. Otherwise, let's jump into the results. So here's our result for Ornith, and just a quick glance, we can see it's got 91%, which is really good. It's passed 20 out of the 22 scenarios. You can probably already guess which one it's failed. So if we go down and let's have a look where it didn't get it right. So on this one, book room A this Friday, it has seemingly chose the wrong date. So that's a bit of a strange one, to be honest. It's one day out. And then the other one, it's going to be 13. It always is. Bigger models can't do 13, so this won't. So this is where the model must chain tools together to reach the currency conversion that's being requested. It needs to also do the conversions with tools as well. So it's really not that bad, this result. Like, bigger models fall over on this, 35B, 26B, 27B. So it's not surprising. This is the unlucky 13, the difficult one. But overall, 91% is very good. So let's see how that compares to Qwen. So here we can see it's actually performed better than Qwen on the agency benchmark. So that's interesting. So if we have a look down at Qwen, so number 5, which Ornith got wrong, Qwen did get this one right. So that's interesting. And then number 7, Ornith got this right and Qwen got this wrong. So it looks like what's happened is the tool calls have leaked out, the formatting has leaked out. So it did find the correct person and it knew that it needed to create the ticket, and then it seems like it did not use the correct syntax to call the tool properly. If we continue down, the same thing has happened here on number 8, number 10, again, the same thing, but it's not consistent. It doesn't always happen. 13, it seems like it got a few more steps in on that one, and then that's it. So there's just some syntax that's not correct on Qwen on this test, where it's not calling tools correctly. So it'll be interesting to see later when we're coding with Qwen, is this going to be a problem with reading and writing files? So for now, it seems like Ornith is more reliable at tool calling. So let's move on. So the next test, we're going to be looking at our OpenAI HumanEval. So this is 164 handwritten coding challenges from the people over at OpenAI. So I'll link to this GitHub down below if you would like to have a read through this or even run it yourself. So let's jump into Ornith's results here, and it's looking very good. So the model answered all but 2. Usually it cannot answer because it thinks too much. It spends all its budget on thinking. And the pass rate from answered is 91%. So it's actually done a very good job here. Now the thinking on this is the model will have 8,000 tokens to answer the question, and once it reaches 4,000 tokens we will inject a prompt telling it that it's halfway and it needs to get to an answer soon. So let's see how it did against Qwen. So Ornith on the left, Qwen is on the right, and it's interesting here. So Qwen has answered all of the questions, but it's done worse. So it has an 87, so it's passed 143, whereas Ornith passed 148. So it looks like if you want to do Python coding, Ornith might be the one to go for. Okay, so we're going to jump into the coding section now, and we're going to start off with an expense tracker. So this will test the CRUD operations with the model. So I've got the prompt here, if you'd like to pause the video and read it, but you can also find this prompt and all my other prompts in the GitHub link down below. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to be using Pi as our harness for today. I'm quite happy with this harness so far, it's pretty good, but I will be checking out another one soon that some of you have recommended. But for this video, we're going to paste the prompt in Pi, and then we'll check back in when there's something to see. So Ornith has come back with our expense tracker. It's told us we can do an npx serve on the directory, so we can spin that up, and let's jump over to our web browser and see what we've got. I'll make this a bit bigger so we can change the theme. We have categories, but there are none. We can do filters, but let's create something first. So we'll add an item, 10. Okay, this is not working either. Okay, so there is an issue here. Let's see if there's an error in the console. There is. Okay, so let's pass this error over to Ornith and see if it can fix it. Okay, so we're back. It fixed the error. The error was gone in the console, but there was still no options in the dropdown. So I prompted it again, and now we do have options. So let's try again. Add something worth 10 in food, and then we'll add expense. Yes, that's working. And if we just add another 1 for food, so that's updated. I'm not seeing an overall like summary anywhere on here, which would be nice. Also, there are no categories here. If I refresh, does it persist? It does. So let's edit this. So yeah, the UI is a bit wonky there. Let's make it transport, set it to 9, save. Let's delete this. Yep, that works. Let's try our filter. So let's go with, if we just do something that's not within the limits. And then yeah, the filters do seem to be working. So the only issue is the categories. Could probably get that fixed with one more prompt, but I think that's enough. So yeah, as I mentioned, Ornith took the original prompt, worked away. We had an issue with the drop-downs not working, and an error. I gave it the error, but it didn't fix the drop-downs not working. And then another prompt, and it sorted that. It seemed to do a lot of coding to fix these issues, so there obviously were some, I don't know, major issues in the code perhaps. But yeah, we've got to an end result relatively quickly, just a couple of prompts here. So not too bad from Ornith. Let's move on to Qwen. Okay, so we've got the Qwen model loaded now, so let's pass the prompt over and see how it does. Okay, so Qwen has come back from our initial prompt. We've got the usual npx serve instruction, so let's do that. And then let's see what we've got here. So let's zoom out a bit. Okay, so this one has an overview, a summary, so this is already looking better. The layout's a bit, could be better, but not terrible. Day and night mode is not working, can't go into dark mode. Let's see if we can add something. So I've got some emojis there on the drop down, that's quite nice. And then we'll just add a day, add that. Nope, didn't work. So yeah, we've got a few issues here. So let's pass these over to Qwen and get it fixed. Okay, Qwen has come back, and I checked there are no errors in the console now, so let's try again. Nope. So no errors in the console. I don't know what's happened with category, but that's broken and there's no error, so we'll try and figure this one out. Okay, so we've been at this for some time with Qwen, and it's always the same issue. We try and submit an entry, the category drop-down breaks, and then nothing works. So it's now come back, because it keeps not working, it's told me to open the app, go to the console, and basically, when I try and submit a form, tell me what I see. So basically, if you're a programmer, you know this is what you do when something's not working. You put some logs, and then you run the program, and then you see where these logs are coming out in your code to try and figure out where the issue is. So we've got some logs, we'll try and submit something, and there is a message here. So I'm going to pass this. So now the model's going to know exactly which part of the code the issue is coming from. Okay, this has been going on for a while now. Passing the debugs back, and honestly, if it's not working now, might have to move on from this because it's taking forever. So let's try. Same issue. Still not working. So yeah, maybe if we keep going with this, eventually it will work, but I've spent quite a while with Qwen now, and it's disappointing because the UI, what I would say, is nicer than what Ornith produced, but Ornith got to the result so fast compared to Qwen that it's just a clear win from Ornith on this test. So I have all the data I need to move on from this test. Ornith is definitely better for this. So let's move on to our memory match game. So I've got the prompt here if you'd like to have a read. Otherwise, again, you can find this down at the GitHub link in the description. So I'm going to copy this over into Pi, and we're going to give this to Ornith first and see how it does. Okay, so Ornith has come back. We've got our run instructions, npx serve. So we'll do that, and then let's see what we've got. Okay, that looks quite nice, but we can see everything, so not ideal. No issues in the console, no errors. So new game works. So the only issue is obviously they're all revealed from the get-go. So let's fix that. Okay, so Ornith has come back. We can't see them anymore. But when I click, nothing's happening. We can see the moves are ticking up here. So it's like the game is being played, but there's no visual indication. So let's get that sorted. Okay, so one more prompt later. And it looks like we can flip tiles. So we have a match there, that's worked. Okay, good. So I'll play this through to the end and then we'll see what the completion state looks like. Okay, so we're coming up on the last move. And there it is. You won. You matched all pairs, total moves. And then we can play again and it resets. So that's a pretty good result from Ornith, just a few shots to get there. So not too bad. Let's see how Qwen does. So we'll give the prompt over to Qwen and then we'll see how it does. Okay, so Qwen has come back. Option A, open the index, or option 2, npx serve. So we're going to go with npx serve on that, and let's see what it's done. Okay, nice. Okay, we've got some animation on flipping them. Okay, it's a bit broken. I think these were matched, so when they're matched, you can't see them anymore. And yeah, I mean, otherwise the visual style of this is much better. So yes, once you match them, they just flip round with the question mark reversed. So the state of a matched card is a little bit poor and it's not easy to work with. So I'm going to get it to fix this. Okay, so it claims the issue has been resolved. There we go. So that's a much better state now. So I assume it was just a bug before, and I don't think that would have been intentional. But yeah, we've got to the result much quicker. So I'll play this to the end and then we'll check the completion state. Okay, that's weird. So I did not finish the game, and it said I have won. So that's a bit strange. I mean, this already shows us the completion state, so we know what that's going to look like. It's okay, it just appears at the bottom. There's no padding or margin or anything. So let's prompt it again with this issue and get this resolved. So I mentioned the issue, and it said it found the bug and fixed it. So let's see if it is fixed. I'm going to reload this. Let's go again. And here we are, last one. Boom, there we go, it works. So it didn't take long to get there in the end. So let's move on to the conclusion. So that concludes it for this video. Ornith 9B versus Qwen 9B. So in the performance test, they performed about the same, which was to be expected. In the memory test, they both did quite poorly. So whenever I run these tests on 35B MOE models or 27B dense, the results are far, far better. So there's no issue in the testing here. It just seems these 9B models are not great with a lot of context. Then in our agency benchmark, there was a win from Ornith in that one. But the Qwen model did not lose out because of its intelligence in here. It lost out because the syntax was breaking essentially when it was trying to call tools. So even though it may have understood and knew how to solve the problem, it wasn't calling the tools correctly. Then in our OpenAI HumanEval, Ornith performed better again. So if you're working with Python, Ornith might be the one to go with. So with our coding, it's a bit of a mixed bag. So on the first one, Ornith got there quite quickly. The UI was more simple, but it did the job, whereas Qwen just failed way too many times. And then on the memory match, Ornith took a bit longer to get there, but it wasn't too bad. And then Qwen also got there reasonably well. But the UI is much nicer with what Qwen has done. And I also noticed that on the expense tracker, it seems like Qwen is definitely better in terms of design. So it's fairly close between these models. I think it's going to come down to what your use case is specifically, really, with which one you would reach for. So yeah, let me know, which one would you choose? So thanks for watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Bye.